Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
Almost on her deathbed, and I was crying, and I said, how will I ever live without you? You're my everything. And she said, well, what makes you think you're going to live without me? I'm always going to be around. And I said, what? She said, I'll send you a butterfly.
Today we have on the show Kristin Joy Lavin, and Kristin is the author of the memoir The Butterfly Promise, which is a story about eternal love, grief, and the wonder of afterlife. Which also happens to have been a finalist in the Independent Author Network's Book of the Year Awards. Quite the flex, Kristin. Her blog, The Wondrous Journey of Being Here, explores self and planetary wellness and the wonders of life. I noticed there's some great Halloween tips on there at the moment, so lots of great current content on there for people to get into. She's worked in the natural products sector for 20 years, loves the clean green life, which she generously shares in her blogs as well. We can't wait to hear more about you, Kristin, and the work, and coming all the way from, I guess, New York with your family and fur family. Unless you're in New York, then and you're listening at the moment, it's not coming all the way from New York. It's coming from around the corner. Kristin Joy Lavin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Woo.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
It is
Awesome.
great. Where do we start, Xavier?
Yeah, I just when we connected with Kristin, I just loved the whole concept of being sent a sign, and that you'd asked your mother for a sign. I think it was to send
My grandmother.
Your grandmother, beautiful.
Yes, my
You
grandmother.
asked for a sign, which I thought was just so lovely. And that's a topic that comes up a lot in our podcast and with people wondering how to understand signs and the importance of them. So I just love to understand about your book, really, and to see where the conversation goes from there. We just love to learn more about you.
Thank you. Well, I have always been a seeker my whole life, ever since I was younger. Even my mother says, you always were wondering about stuff and always had questions about, things that didn't appear to be normal, or just, very curious kid, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really had any experience with death or grief until I was older. And so the premise of the book, The Butterfly Promise, is basically that I had an amazing relationship with my grandmother my whole life. She was like a second mother to me. I like to say we were kindred spirits. Mm-hmm. And when she was sick, she was, well into her 90s. And she basically was almost on her deathbed, and I was crying, and I said, how will I ever live without you? You're my everything. And she said, well, what makes you think you're going to live without me? I'm always going to be around. And I said, what? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I'll send you a butterfly. So that's the premise of the book, is about does she or doesn't she, the question of afterlife, my experience, getting signs, learning about afterlife, and is there such a thing? Because I think we all have really different views about the science of it, if it is a science, if it's not a science, and you could ask a physicist what they believe, and they have a totally different take on that. Some of them believe in that, but they feel it's an energy and that it's not so spiritual. So I think there's like many different takes that I explored in the book, and it was such a joyful experience to write it and to live it. At the time, it was upsetting because eventually my grandmother did pass on, and then grief is its own entity there. So, but it was fun to write, and I felt like after my grandmother died and I was exploring all these situations, like, is this true? Can this happen? I think I was looking for answers more than anything else. So I was looking to books. I've always looked to books. I had like a back injury and they wanted to give me painkillers. And I said, no, there's got to be something else. So I read Healing Your Back Pain. And it was all about natural remedies and also like emotional causes of back pain. So I'm always like an explorer, and I love seeking different and alternative answers, natural things. So it was kind of like I went to books and I just started looking for the story that I wanted to read. And at the time, I really just didn't find what I was looking for. And as my story unfolded, I was like, I'm going to write the story. I'm going to write the book that I would want to read if I was grieving and had questions.
Fantastic.
Wow. I feel like we need to speak a little bit more about, like, obviously when you were younger and growing up with Graham. I think you call her Graham. Yeah. So with Graham in her life, was she very spiritual? Like, what was Graham like?
She was. So she was actually, when she was younger, she was a bit more religious.
Okay.
I would say she was brought up Episcopal. She actually, there is a chapter about her interesting life when she was younger. She was really like a very artsy kid living in Greenwich Village back in the early 1900s. And she met a boy that was another religion, and they fell madly in love, but they couldn't stay together because of it.
Oh, that's a book
Juliet.
in itself. Amazing.
It's a whole chapter because
Fantastic.
it really gets crazy, like what happens to them in throughout their lives. So yeah, that's like a book in itself. But I did make it a chapter because I wanted it to be part of her history and her story, and have people really get to know Graham the way that you could really appreciate her. So I feel like she got more spiritual later in life. And she really did. I mean, I think when she said she was going to, send me a butterfly, I think that was like a real spiritual decision.
Yeah.
It was basically a knowing in her soul that she was going to do that. And she just promised me, and she knew she was going to try.
That's amazing.
So while you were writing, you were writing this before she passed, is that what you said? And continued on? It all started after.
It all started after. Yeah. After she passed away, I had a friend that recommended, she said, you should really be writing all this down. What's happening to you is really amazing. And there's like a story here. Because I would tell her all these things. My grandma promised me a butterfly, then this happened, and that happened. And so I started to just write it down, and really, it kind of gave me a lot of stories from like growing up too. So some of the book is like flashbacks, like I said, to her past, but also to when I was little, and things that had happened, either religious things like with church, or things with my grandmother, that she wasn't always perfect. And that's a lesson in itself. It's a theme in a book that, sometimes the person you love the most in the world that you put on this pedestal isn't always perfect. And I think we all have to grapple with that. Even ourselves, we always want to be perfect, and that doesn't happen. And I think we should allow ourselves and other people to make mistakes and to realize that no one is perfect. And we're all here just having this like amazing experience. And we need to accept people for who they are, and that whatever they're going through, because you never know.
Yeah, it's hard. We tend to do that, don't we? We put people on pedestals, which is unfair to them, but it's unfair to us as well, because it's unrealistic. And the real life, where there's mistakes and all sorts of things, is much more beautiful than whatever perfect life we come up with in our mind. Life is so much bigger than that. You say you go back to different stages in your life. I saw, because I love the fact that you put pictures on your website of different parts of the book. So I'm cheating. I'm looking at pictures before I've read it. But I saw, which is kind of creepy, you've got a picture there of you in what looks like a canoe an hour before your near-death experience.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So this is like in the book as well. So when I was 15 years old, I was invited to Lake George, New York, it's sort of like a rural mountainous village up in like maybe a few hours above Manhattan. So it's not anything like Manhattan. It's very suburbia and country-like. And so we had gone to this trip, like it was almost like a little bit of a glorified camping trip. I mean, we were staying in rustic cabins and things like that. And we had never done that before. And we had never been in a canoe before. So my friend, Chrissy, I went with her family. And so as soon as we got there, we went down to the lake to try to like explore. And we went out on the canoe and it was a beautiful sunny day. And within probably like a few minutes, clouds rolled in and lightning and thunder started happening. And we were like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And we got like panicky and we kind of got struck by lightning.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that's what happened to me.
Opened up your connection. Woo.
I know. Maybe it did. I don't know. But yeah, so it was like kind of a harrowing experience. But it's everything turned out okay. But it was a crazy experience. So yeah, I have the picture up there because, you know, sometimes you take a picture in life and you never know, like, oh my gosh, this could be, you know, the beginning of whatever happens to you next, right? So
yeah, what an interesting symbology. I love that. We love interviewing experts from different fields about all things outside the apparent physical realm.
And the one constant is that these phenomena are transmitted through energy.
So we sought out and teamed up with Subtle Energy Science
to bring to you, our listeners,
energetically encoded technology you can use on your phone, laptop, computer, or tablet.
turning your device into a powerful personal quantum energy tool.
We're not the creators, nor are we qualified enough to explain it, but there is a mind-blowing number of scientific studies available on their website.
We get to try the range ourselves so we can give an honest review.
And from September to the start of December, we've got 20% off digital cannabis with promo code MATP-861.
Now, this is not physical cannabis. It's the digital transmitted quantum energy source of cannabis. So you get the stress relief, the anti-inflammatory benefits, even mild euphoria without the negative effects or addiction.
Although from experience, opening multiple files can result in lots of giggles and not getting much done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, I think, symbols in the stories you've got there in the book. And even, I mean, it's very symbolic, the butterfly. I couldn't think of a more symbolic animal.
Yeah.
You've got those transitions and you're talking about life after death and things like that. It's quite incredible. Do you think very deliberate of your gram to send you a butterfly?
In particular, yeah.
I think it was. You know, she was very interested in poetry, spiritual things. Like, as I said, later in life, she used to read a lot of Edgar Cayce books, who was like a medical intuit, who could like put himself into a trance and then know what was wrong with somebody. So she was like reading his books. And so I don't think it was an accident. I think she probably knew that it was a spiritual symbol, a beautiful symbol as well, and maybe indicative of change and metamorphosis and the way we go through life. I'd like to think that. I mean, she never really said it, but she always was a very determined, purposeful person. So I think it was, I'm sure, on purpose that she promised the butterfly and not a dragonfly or a pink elephant or something.
Yeah. I really love how you're explaining that your book has lots of different like perspectives, like thought processes about, is it really happening? Is there another side? Looking at different ways of, instead of just saying this is how it is because this was my experience, and that you actually explored. So when you did get your signs of butterflies and when you're writing about that in the book, did you have that? Were you grappling with, is this really from her? Am I just hoping because she said the butterfly, and anytime I see one or a picture of one, am I just hoping that it's from her? So how did you go processing that for yourself?
So Okay, so that's the tricky part, because I don't want to give too much away about the
okay,
book.
sorry.
So
Keep them guessing. Keep
but-
them guessing.
Fine,
You
you
got
don't
to
have to
sell
answer
these
that
books.
question.
You got to sell the books. So just give enough. That's right.
come on, I need the book sales. I'm
Exactly,
a first-time
exactly.
author. I'm an unknown. I'm a nobody.
You aren't now. We're so famous, we'll get you out there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, the three of us together. Exactly. But I would say, though, I'm going to just say, when she made me the promise, I was wondering, how is that going to happen? Is like a butterfly going to just come and land on my nose, and then I'm going to think it's her? Or is there going to be some strange mystical experience? I didn't really know what was going to happen. And some things that did unfold were not questionable. Let's just say that.
Yeah, great. And I think it's interesting when you look at confirmation. Confirmation is something that is very personal to people. So confirmation for one person might not be confirmation to another, but it's completely irrelevant if it's confirmation to someone else or not. Anyway, it's a very specific thing. So I'm sure whatever it was that needed to give you that confirmation, which if you read the book, you'll find out, is absolutely exactly what you needed, and being open to what that's going to be is your role. You know, it's your responsibilities to be open to see signs and things.
Yeah, and I think you always wonder.
Yeah,
you always kind of wonder, when I tell the story, are people going to believe this? And I think everyone probably feels that way. Is you know, anyone that experiences a psychic moment or a sign from afterlife or a loved one is always wondering, is this true? Is it my imagination? And when you tell somebody else, are they going, this is crazy, that's not true? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, that's totally her, you know? And you're wondering, are they really believing it, or is it just my confirmation and I believe it and I'm going to choose to believe it? So
and I guess the point is, does it matter if someone else believes you? And that's the big thing, because now you're talking about something else. I want people to believe me. It's like, why? You know, this was for you. This was your experience. It's great to have that seeking kind of constantly questioning the real. I think is a great way to live. I find what I've done in my past when, in your words, psychic things have happened, is I just go, wow, that's just incredible. That's really full on. And then I forget about it. And then I miss all the other things that happen. And then I look back and I'll have a memory of something and I'll go, holy crap, that was like crazy. That was exactly what that was. How have I just forgotten about it all this time? Do you think it's important for people to share these experiences? Not just we're not all, you know, award-winning authors. But is it something that you think is important for these stories to come out and share with each other?
Yeah, I totally believe that. I think the more people that share their stories about situations that they've experienced that are just unexplainable, I think the more validation it gives to everyone. And I do feel like things are changing. Like, you never used to see that many movies or TV shows or books about things like that. And people are just coming out in droves and telling about their experiences. And I think, you know, there is something to it. Maybe as a culture, we're all getting more open. I hope that's true. I feel like we are in an evolution phase in this moment in time. Maybe, you know, maybe this is like a big renaissance happening right now. And like 40 years from now, we'll look back at 2020 or 2025 or whatever, and we'll say, wow, that was really the start of something, that now look where we are. So that's what I'm hoping, like things will evolve to that, and that we'll just be able to talk freer about it, and there won't be as much doubt.
I think when people don't understand it enough themselves, if they don't even believe it themselves, they'll be more less likely to share, because then they don't want to be ridiculed or other people. Like, not everyone's as brave as you to write a book about it, or they don't have the skill. They might be able to just talk about it on a blog or a podcast or tell a couple of friends, but any way you share it is wonderful, because then, like, I know I might see, I saw somebody do a post, it was just on like a mum's page, saying about that, asking about people who their children have said strange things. And so all these parents are commenting, and I couldn't get over how many commented about weird stuff the children had said about possible past lives or memories that doesn't make any sense. And I was reading through them, I thought, I can't believe how many there are. But it just took that one person like asking and thinking that's a good question. And then people going, oh my goodness, thank you so much for saying that. I thought my child was really weird. And they're all coming together and talking. So the more we are just brave enough to just share these experiences is wonderful.
Yeah, and then you don't feel so weird, right?
Yeah, it's nice to know that you're not the only one having these experiences, and we can be more open about it. That's really good. Have you got feedback from people reading your book so far? What kind of things have you heard from them?
Oh my gosh. I think I cried for weeks. Like every time people would tell me something, I would burst out in tears. Like, I don't know what it was. It was just so crazy. I was so emotional about it because the book was kind of in the works for a while. And so when it finally came to fruition, I just got very emotional. And it was just such a fun experience to have, like, people telling me their stories or saying, I feel so much better. I believe you. Or they were telling me, a friend that I had that read it, she lost her daughter, and she said she was on a plane crying as she was reading it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like,
that's fantastic.
And not that I want to make anyone cry, but
they need to.
That was
healing.
Yeah, maybe it's healing, and maybe but she felt she wanted to connect with her daughter, and she just felt like it was just she connected with what I was saying. And I think that's all you can ask in art, is that you reach people and you evoke some sort of emotion, or even just to wonder or think about what the art was, not necessarily even believing it. But I actually had this one guy, he's an older gentleman, and I was at a book signing, and he came over to me and he said, oh, so you're the author of The Butterfly Promise. I've heard a lot about you. And I was like, oh, really?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
so, yeah, exactly. Hopefully it was all good. But I guess what he meant was, like, a lot of people at the store were reading the book and enjoying it, but he was a doubter. And he said, I really just don't believe in stuff like that. But I wanted to give it a try. And he said, he started crying in front of me and said that he was in Vietnam and he lost his, somebody in his troop, I guess, whatever, his company. And he always felt guilty about what had happened and why he lived and this person died. And he said he had like an experience with, I don't know if it was a medium, I can't remember what he said, but where this person came through, and he kind of just wasn't sure if he should believe it or not. And he was weeping as he was telling me this. And I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. I was trying not to cry myself. And it was just such a great experience. And I love when people tell me that. I'm always so appreciative and so grateful that we connected like that, because really that was the goal of my book. Was I really wanted to reach people and have people not feel alone and feel like we are connected through our feelings, through grief. I mean, grief is such a powerful emotion, and it's such a lonely emotion. You always feel so alone when it happens. Like, I felt like every time I've lost someone, even a pet, I've always felt this loneliness come through, because I feel like you feel like no one understands this. This was my person. This was my cat or dog.
Yeah.
And so, but we're all in that boat together, because you cannot escape this world without losing someone along the way and feeling it. So I think, though, it's important that we all connect and we all feel like yeah, that I felt that way too. I felt depressed or lonely or sad for all these months or years or something, and that it's okay to feel that way. It's totally normal. Totally normal.
Absolutely. And there's truth in that as well, is that nobody does know what you had with that relation. This is your life, your experience. So there is a loneliness that no one can understand. They can understand the feeling of grief, but they can't understand your loss because they don't know what you had. So, and that maybe that's an important thing that we need to feel, is to know that this experience is something that only we can experience. But the shared stuff around the grief and the love that we can share and the connectedness is perhaps what brings it back. I love that you talk about your book as art when talking about sharing with people. And I've always thought that the grandest gesture in art is vulnerability, no matter what it is. So for you to be quite vulnerable in that book brings out the vulnerability in others to be able to share as well. So I just, and I'm sure there's people listening now that are thinking of their own situations and their own connections with people, and maybe some things that they've questioned on signs afterwards and just gone, wait a sec, I threw that in the bin. Maybe I should relook at it again. Maybe it was a sign.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask, so in your life when Graham was here in the physical, what was the connection that you had? It sounds like you always felt that special connection even from a very young age. How was your connection with Graham different to, say, others in your family?
It's something that is kind of unexplainable. I don't know. I just always felt extremely close to her. I felt like I could always rely on her. We had really deep conversations. She, my parents got divorced when I was younger. So my grandmother helped care for me. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Living in a divorce situation where your parents fight and you need that someone to go to that understands you and that will comfort you. So that was probably a really big part of my childhood with her, knowing I could trust her. And she was there for me, but also we used to just have so much fun together. She really indulged me. I would make her play like cashier, and I was obsessed with cash registers when I was younger. So I don't know why.
Calling.
I know.
You should be at Walmart or something.
I know. I actually worked as a cashier because I wanted to do that so badly when I was like out of high school, or in high school, I should say. I was like, I need to work at a store that has a cash register.
That's so
and I'm
cool.
still obsessed with them, but like I love the antique ones. When I go into like an antique shop, I'm always like, oh, they're so cute. I love them. Yeah. But I used to like have a toy one, and we would like be in the kitchen and she would say, all right, let's play store. And she would take out all the like groceries, or she would take out all her jewelry, and I would be like the sales lady and she would be the customer, and she would put everything out and I would ring it up and she would teach me about money. And so she always made things fun, and I would wear like the high heels. And so it was like, we just had like a total bonding experience. I would say with love and with fun, and with my parents going through what they were going through. And so it was always there, and it just got stronger as I was younger. As I got older, we never like parted or anything. So, sometimes when you get to be a teenager or you're in your 20s, you kind of, I don't want to hang out with like an old person. Or I never felt that way about her. I always like relished her wisdom and her stories and her fun and our family history. And she was always just like a very big part of my life. And I really enjoyed her company.
I resonate with that so much. I'm very close to my gran rather than Graham, but my gran. I haven't, it's upside down too, but I have an apple tattoo because she gets nicknamed Granny Smith Apple.
Oh, cute.
by myself and my kids. We're very close, and funnily enough, she's in a nursing home now, and now she has dementia, and she's in her early 90s. But I call her every couple of weeks and have very long conversations because she'll get distracted and talk about other things or forget what she was saying. But I reminded her of a moment, and she had this moment of clarity that was amazing. So I wanted to share this with you because I thought you'd resonate with this because of the book as well. I said to her, Gran, do you remember what you promised me? And this was before she had dementia when she was still living at home. I said, do you remember what you promised me you would do when you die and you go to the other side? And she said, and she was just forgetting what she was talking about. Then all of a sudden she just went, yes, Xavier, I'm going to help you with your work. Because I'm a medium, and she had promised me prior, like 2 years prior, that she's going to visit me and help me. She told me she was going to help bring people in spirit to talk to me. She was going to be like the boss of that, like help bring them over, usher them to me.
Like
so
the gatekeeper.
Yeah. And so when she said that, this moment of clarity in all her confusion in that conversation, saying, I'm going to help you with your work. Like she remembered, and then she went back to talking about whoever was on the television in the room.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. So that's my promise from my gran, that she's going to help.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
And
more than now, maybe.
And it's a wonder, though, that she did have that moment of clarity when you were talking just about that. I mean, that does say something.
There's some confirmation in that. Absolutely.
It was overwhelming. And so I left a voicemail in my family group chat telling them what she said, just to share. I couldn't wait while it was top of mind. I just wanted to share it with them and said, how beautiful is that she's had that moment of clarity. And and she's just so gorgeous, and she still recognizes my voice when I get on the phone to her. So she has so many grandchildren, and she's a very, very popular lady. But yeah, remembering all those things from your childhood, I used to have that beautiful home feeling when I was with her as a kid growing up, because my parents didn't divorce at a young age, but we had a lot of stress and pressure. They're always we had a lot of responsibility trying to help run the household because they were both working full time. And so when I was with her, I could be a kid again, and I didn't she would tell me to go have a shower in the morning, and when I was in the shower, she'd make my bed for me, which is something that I'd never had done. And breakfast would be ready when I came out, and all these things that I would normally have to do everything myself. And if we were naughty or misbehaved, she always told my mum we were perfect angels. That kind of thing. So you're never in trouble, always safe. And that's just,
she sounds amazing.
That's it. And it just sounds just like so many similarities. And I know people all have that person. Like my kids know that she's my favorite person in the world, and they know that over them, they get it because everyone just gets it. They see it.
There's something about grandmothers. They're just so special. I don't know what it is about them, but we all love them, don't we? Even if they're not ours, we just love them.
Yes.
Does she remember stories about her, your childhood or her childhood even?
Or yeah, she might remember some things now, but I'm trying to just hold on to the fact that she remembers so much before, and when she crosses over, she'll remember it all over again. So I believe that she'll just remember everything and be okay. But yeah, she does. It's hard to try to get her talking. We just talk to her so she doesn't get confused and upset.
Yeah. What's a really nice idea? When I try to tell people, because I did it with my own grandmother, was I made a video diary of her stories. So I used to go over there once she got to a certain age, and I would just ask her questions, random questions about things. And I just have her on video telling me stories about her childhood or when I was younger, or just family history. So that might be worth doing too.
Video
to do that with your grandmother.
We were doing that before she had dementia, but writing it down. So a bit of video would have been a much better idea.
That's a really good
idea. Yeah.
There's a memoir definitely of hers with all the different stories, and people would go visit her and add to it and ask her a random another story and check what they've already written and ask her another story. But a video would have been a great idea. That's beautiful because you're seeing them talking and having those memories of the personality comes through.
Connecting that stuff's so important. When my mother had dementia, we would play music from her past and play some of her own music when she was in a band, and have slideshows of different stuff from her childhood and then other stuff as well. And her face would just light up. I think there's some wonderful things you can do, because it's very difficult for families when when they've got someone
Yeah.
that's got dementia. It's heartbreaking. It's almost like you have two losses. You know, you've got the grief both times. You know, so
Absolutely.
they're lovely ideas to be able to get out there and ask questions and do a video, and that's a wonderful thing. I was going to ask, and Xavier, you had the perfect lead in for it. Oh, and by the way, I've already told you, if I go, well, when I go, if it's before you, I'm going to come back and mess with you. So I'm going to have to deal with your gran. That's the only problem. We're promising to haunt each other.
Don't annoy her. She's working.
You're a psychic. It'll work more on you. I'm going to have to deal with gran. So I don't know how I'm going to go there. But so Gran's coming back to help you. I had a question. I was really interested when you were writing the book. You know, obviously you've got a connection with Grandma at the moment, Kristin. So did that help? Were there things coming through as you were writing the book? Like, did you have moments when you felt her presence or her guidance or her hand with you?
Is that giving it away too?
No, while you're writing it. It doesn't have to be in the book.
You know what I felt like? I don't know if it was her or the universe, but I did feel like I was like channeling what was like, there was parts where I wrote that I just felt like came from someplace else. It was like very hard to explain. And I've heard other creative people say that, that they've had that experience before, like divine intervention almost, but I did feel that way about it. And as I was writing the book, there were instances that I felt my grandmother's presence in different ways, especially like when I published it. I think I was maybe even asking her, is this okay that I wrote all this stuff about you? Because, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's vulnerability. So it's vulnerable to write your own story. And I kind of wasn't really like a big social media person or anything like that. I was a little bit more private. So putting my most vulnerable, darkest moments in a book and then having it out in the public for everyone to read was very like intimidating. And that's probably why I didn't publish it for a while. My book kind of sat for a little while. And I guess timing is everything. I was just finally ready to do it. But I think I was also worried about, is my grandma going to like it? Is she going to like this? Or is she going to think this is crazy? Why'd you write that about me? I didn't want anybody to know. I don't know. So I guess, but I feel like she was happy with it.
And particularly writing, as you said, not writing it out as a perfect thing that happened. Like you wanted it to be quite honest, because I guess you wanted quite an authentic, because of your seeking attitude to life and life beyond. It needs to be authentic, where it could be real, maybe not. I'm just going to put the facts out. It's a big deal for you to write, not just about your own experience, but you're writing obviously about Graham in an honest way, not in painting a perfect picture, you know. So yes. I guess it's hard. You're like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm okay with it, but like, I'm writing this on behalf of others as well. Yeah. Are they okay with it? So it is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when you are showing that somebody isn't perfect and things that happen in someone else's life, and you can't even really ask permission because they're not even here anymore. So you're like, oh, I hope this is okay with them. Like, are they gonna like come down and strike me with a lightning bolt? So
already happened. Already happened, and you survived that one. So
the references you just gave, like, what the?
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that. I did get struck by lightning already. So I can survive another one.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you have any other family members? Like, did she have a lot of were you the only grandchild? Was there more? Did you have anyone else sort of commenting in your family or that knew her about the things you were kind of worried about sharing? Was everyone okay?
You know what? My mother is an only child. So my grandmother only had me and my brother. So I was her only granddaughter. And so I'm sure that had something to do with the fact that she made me feel special as well. But when I was writing the book, I didn't really run it by anyone that I knew. I actually workshopped it in New York City.
Yeah.
So there's this place called Gotham Writers, and it's like workshops where you can go and you can learn a craft, like how to write nonfiction, how to write memoir, how to do this, how to do that. So I actually workshopped the book. And I think because I'm not trained, I didn't go to college for, I wasn't a literary major or anything like that. And I didn't have a lot of writing experience other than just enjoying it. So I decided to do that, and I needed some help. And I wanted feedback, like, do I have a story here? Is it worth telling? So I took a memoir class there, and which was such a beautiful experience because everyone comes to the class, like maybe there was 10 people or something, and the instructor, gives you exercises and tells you, bring in, a chapter of your book that you want to share. And what you do is you'll write, and then the following week you come back with your completed chapter and you give everyone a copy. So you're getting a story from everyone in the class. And so they have yours, you have theirs. So you're doing all this homework during the week, reading people's stories, and then you have to comment. So you have to catch mistakes or catch things that don't make sense maybe. And it was such a beautiful experience to share a story and kind of have people encourage me and say, I love the relationship with you and your grandmother. I want to hear more. I want to hear more. And I would do that for other people. Other people were writing really amazing stories about different things in their life. And some people are just doing it as a hobby, maybe even like a therapy. And other people said, no, I want to write a book. And so that was a really great experience to do that, and just to have confirmation and a security, I guess, in doing it. So that was who I shared with. And I did that for 2 years. So I did maybe 4 classes, and I wound up hiring one of my instructors as an editor. She's part of the faculty there running the school, and she helped me edit and get the book really tight and the way that I wanted it to be. And it was a really big learning experience.
Oh,
I mean, if it's writing a book and then publishing a book is crazy. It's totally crazy. But I was so happy that I did it. And it was such a high in my life because I was, I've been working in the natural products industry for years. And so I've done that for so long that, you get to a certain place in your life where it's very comfortable, and doing something out of the box is totally exhilarating. I highly recommend it. And just really fun. And it makes your brain work so hard too. I was using brain cells I never even knew I had. It was fun.
That's incredible.
Well, you guys, because your podcast just started last year, right? So was this your first podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is an adventure for us, and we've been growing and changing and evolving because of all the things we're learning about ourselves, and we're learning from the people we interview. It's just beautiful. It's such a great process. It's definitely a love project. This, isn't it, Michael?
No, I'm doing it for the money. So make sure you're on our Patreon. This is a good ad, actually. Join our Patreon. We don't have a Patreon. I'm joking. we actually have great listeners, and we see them out and about. We didn't get to meet different people that listen to the show that literally have just picked it up from the internet. So not even friends of friends or people of guests. So it's actually quite nice that we're providing something for people that's needed. And I guess with your book as well, you are an avid reader and an avid seeker, and then knowing that, oh wow, this book is actually really important to write because this is the book that I would want to read not saying there aren't other books out there, but this is a book that I would want to read
Yes.
in what I'm going through. So it's kind of confirmation again, isn't it, that you were meant to write this book, and it was meant to be a hard process, and it was meant to rip you apart so that you could push further and harder and make it really work. And it'd be interesting to see what's next for you. And part of that, I was going to ask, since writing the book, how has your relationship been with Graham? Have you found more things have opened up? Have you noticed more things, or has it kind of, the communication settled down a little bit? Like what have you noticed post writing the book, or publishing the book, I should say?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think as I was experiencing all these like connections and psychic experiences that I had my whole life, before she had passed, I was remembering, and I wrote them in the book. I told of a few things that had already happened to me, but I guess I just went, wow, that's weird that happened, or I knew that person was going to be there. And, so little things would happen, but I didn't really tap into anything until like maybe like the past like 3 or 4 years. I've been trying to, I guess, train myself to have more signs and signals. And I guess I don't know what the word is, but I've been reading books by mediums and trying to tap into my gift a little bit more and seeing where I can go with it. I'm not saying I'm going to be a medium or anything like that, but I want to experience more. I think I want to keep it going, and I want to have better and more meaningful experiences. And I think, of course, meditation is part of that, and that's hard and challenging. And it's you have to train your brain to do it. But I think, I want to just keep going with it. And so since publishing, I think I've had some like really cool experiences, and
Awesome.
We'll see where it goes.
Are there more books in there? Maybe coming from the other side as well, help from the other side. Do you feel like there's some more books in you?
Yes.
Oh, that's exciting.
I definitely have 2 in my brain right now.
Wow.
So, and my goal was I wanted to start writing them after the summer, but I've just been a little bit busy right now. And because I have, you have to bunker down in a sense and really just like be disciplined about it. Yeah. But I definitely have 2 ideas. I've been kind of like trying to ask my spirit guides, which one should I write? And I kind of feel like they're saying, write both of them and see where they go. And because one is fiction and one is nonfiction. So I'm going to just definitely work on that. And definitely both of them have like more of a spiritual undertones. And because I feel like who I am.
That's where you're at.
That's where I am at. And I just think like we always need more of it. We need more of it.
Yeah.
I think if you're right where you're at, it's going to come through more authentic anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's fine. I'm just thinking you definitely inspired me, because I have a book in me and I keep talking about it and wondering when I'm going to start. So it might be for our after summer or in the new year might be when I start that, because I've been in 2 multi-author books, which has just been really nice. And I think the bigger challenge of having one for on your own is a much bigger challenge, because with the other books I had 9 or 17 people promoting it all together. So doing that yourself is a big deal, because it's only you. So that takes a lot of bravery, and then there's so much emotion behind it, because that's your baby and that's something you've created and put money into and time, and getting that and hoping it's received well is really important. So
it's definitely it's a challenge. Just there's millions of books out there, and what makes someone pick your book? And I guess sometimes it's word of mouth, it's the Amazon algorithm, or it's doing stuff like this where you connect with like-minded people and you share your story, and you hope that a listener or someone that is tuning in will like what you have to say and, you know, want to hear more about your story. And I think we all just, you know, we're all here to share our stories, no matter how crazy they are. But, you know, and I think too, I feel like I love what you said, like what you in the beginning of you in your intro of your show. I love, it's beautifully done, by the way. And what you say is, we're not here to judge or to convince you or anything like that. And those are like some of the best people that you want to listen or read your stuff, because it just creates a question mark, you know, as to, you know, is it possible? I mean, you know, I think it's also important to have like somebody that challenges you in your story. And in my book, I do have a challenger that didn't really believe in stuff like that, and I was confiding in them. And so I don't want to tell you who it is.
No, we're gonna read it.
But it is someone close to me that is just had different viewpoints about me, about, you know, what I was believing and about the universe and things like that. So I think it's important to reach out to those people too and share, you know, stories and question, you know, and also hear why they think the way they think. You know, why don't they believe? Why are people atheists or agnostic or you know, just question everything in general? I think it's a good conversation to have. I think that's important.
I think for the person as well, for yourself as well, it's really important, because we do get caught up in the romance of what we want to believe. And sometimes I think reality is more beautiful than what we can imagine it anyway. So it gets you out of your imagination and brings you into the real. So you're actually open to see the real thing. And I find as well, and it seems ridiculous, but I do honestly believe this, that the right question is more satisfying than any answer you can get. Because
absolutely, that's good.
Answers tend to just lead to other questions. So I think it's great to spend time with people that question. It's so much better than spending time with people that already know.
Knows. We're all surmising. We're all from our own perspectives and experiences. I feel really passionate about what I feel like I know and believe, but I'm just getting things shown to me that I might be ready for, and there might be so much more out there that I haven't been shown, because my brain would explode. So I never promise to know all the answers about anything, and we're always learning from others.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be something if, as time goes on and as you age, you do get to experience more, you know, more of those experiences, like maybe like you're sitting here right now telling me that, but 10 years from now, you would go back and watch this and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this has happened since then. So we don't know what story will unfold.
I love that you just said that. I always think about stuff like that. Our brains are very in sync. It's great.
I love it.
I've got to say as well, like, I think you found an excellent book title in what you were saying earlier, because you love animals so much, and you talk about mushrooms a lot and butterflies, and you love elephants and all of this sort of stuff. I feel like you need to do a book on symbolic animals and call it the Amazon algorithm. I think it's amazing. I think which might actually mess up the Amazon algorithm as well. So I feel like that's my psychic coming through. Wow, that's your book, the Amazon algorithm.
I like it. Let's make that work.
Make it work.
Is it going to have animals in it that you find in the Amazon rainforest?
I don't know. My spirit guides are smart asses, so you're just going to take it for what it is. It's probably a joke. I wanted to mention as well, because you guys talked about grandparents, and I just felt like I had to put this in here because we may not come back to it. So I'm a hypnotherapist, and I do a whole lot of different modalities, and I'm a specialist in regression. And often I find myself doing ancestral regressions. And I have to say 90% of the ancestral regressions that happen are 2 generations back. So not the parents, but the grandparents. Like 90% are the grandparents. So then I feel like there might be some unknown link between a grandparent relationship, because you're saying, how much do we just love, you know, grandmas and poor grandpas out there? You know, my grandpa I was very close to. But yeah, like that, you've got that. There might be something there that we don't understand about that second generation off and that important relationship that we have with them, because maybe it's the oldest, well, unless you're really lucky, the oldest generation you're going to experience life on earth. So maybe it's just that. But
So wait, so explain to me what the difference between like a past lives and an ancestral regression is, because I actually don't know what that is.
Yeah, great. So and I'll blow your mind with something that had to happen once. So ancestral lives, for whatever reason, the subconscious part of the higher self communicates through the person to me that there's a life that they have to meet. And if it's ancestral, that is through the bloodline. So it'll be, you know, mother, grandmother, parent, grandparent, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, whatever. Or 5 and more. I don't keep going because you'll be there forever saying great, 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 great. And so that'll be something like a significant emotional event in that time that's affecting them now, that they've inherited somehow, maybe through the genealogy.
Yeah.
A past life is a life that you've experienced at another time that most likely is not in your genealogy, but could be. If it is, it's just through a matter of fact. It's not through any kind of means that needs to happen. So often a past life could be you in a completely different country, in a completely different life that's got nothing to do with your genealogy. But I have had an ancestral life that we went into, and there was an emotional block in that ancestral life, and we weren't quite cleared through that emotional block. And so I asked the subconscious or the higher self of the person, is there a past life connected to this ancestral life that needs to be cleared? And the answer was yes. And I said, can we go into the past life for this great, it was a grandfather actually. Go into this grandfather. Can this grandfather experience this past life now? Can we do that here? Yes. It's like, okay, cool. And take them there. And it was a past life that was cleared for the grandfather to clear that emotional event that was carried on from the person sitting in front of me. So it's like a horrible version of Inception that breaks your brain and snaps it in half. But it's interesting whenever it's ancestral. So when it's a past life, it just could be anywhere. There's no real theme. If it's some other thing, there's all sorts of things that come up. Times in the spirit world, in between lives, lots of stuff comes up, and it could be absolutely anywhere. But the only time there's a real pattern is when it's ancestral. It's often the 2 generations up. It's the grandparents, which is just weird.
That's amazing.
Because you think of all of the possibilities. It's like often the grandparents. There's this really strong connection, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's. I wasn't sure. I knew what past lives was, but I wasn't sure what the ancestral thing. And I often hear stories about people that are almost inheriting like traumas from their, you know, their great grandparents or their parents. Like you hear a lot about that. So that's very interesting.
We can work, when we work on ourselves, we can stop trauma in its tracks from carrying on to then our children and their children. We can help break the cycle of the trauma that it might be held. Is your gram your mum's mum?
Yes.
Yeah, it's maternal side.
Yeah, and isn't that a thing going around explaining that a lot of us didn't ever think of, that when your gram would have been pregnant with your mum, one of the first things that forms in her body would be her ovaries and eggs, which then would have been you. So then technically you were inside your grandmother.
Right. Like unfertilized, I guess, right?
Yes.
Like the beginning of it.
Genealogy, yeah. So it's like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. Thinking of you. So that is the second generation back. Like yeah.
Right. Is your gran your maternal gran?
My dad's.
Your dad's.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Not as close to my mum's parents, but you still have a connection with everybody, but yeah, definitely closer to my dad's
mother.
Isn't
Yeah.
that funny? Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I think that there must be something in that. I just felt like that was really special. We're talking about grandparents here, that there's lots of themes that come up in as far as people's experience, particularly in death and the afterlife. That's 100% themed from people from all religions and backgrounds all around the world, in my experience, which is really interesting. But as far as a theme of where people go, the only theme is that with ancestral, often it's a grandparent. And this is when the person is in a deep hypnotic state and the answers are coming through subconsciously. So it's through a finger or thumb that's saying yes or no. So it's like they don't even have control over the answer. It just comes through. So it's like very
That's
interesting. There
amazing.
might be something in that. And I think that just brings a lot of power to your story as well. That there is some kind of very strong connection that's passed with grandparents.
Some
For
people,
those of us
I
lucky
believe
enough
it.
to know them,
some
Yeah.
people
plenty that don't.
thinking, I can't stand my grandparents. What are you talking about? But yeah, so many people I know, I think a lot of people do have a strong connection with at least one grandparent.
Yeah, or they passed early and never got to know them, or anything like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you guys think about like pets and soul connection to pets?
Xavier, you're the psychic.
I was like, who goes?
I'm just a hypnotherapist.
I've been shown different things like that animal. So usually when we come here and experience lives, we would start off as things like water, air, a rock, trees, and progress animals and go up, and then you become people. And not often, maybe there's exceptions, that you would, when you come back, you would then come back as an animal when you've been a person. So soul connections with animals, I don't know if they would have been a person in your life before, but they may have been another animal in your life before, and they keep coming back. But I don't know.
But anything's possible, right? I mean,
anything's possible, because sometimes people's like they've talked about that their grandparent, they'll swear that's the dog that's come into my life that they sent me, and that's them. That's really weird because they're obsessed with her slippers or something like that. But it could be,
why couldn't that
there's
happen?
being their spirit guide as well, and showing them things, and so I'm not sure, but I definitely believe that they're sent to us. Animals are very special, and they're sent to us, whether it's a reincarnation or just sent to us to help us out because they're the perfect animal to have in our lives. What about you? You've touched on that in yourself about the loss and the grief with pets as well, not just people, and how big that is.
Yeah, that was actually my first experience with grief, was with losing my cat.
Yeah.
And so I already had that experience, but the first person I ever lost was, my grandmother. But I feel like pet grief is really real, and it's deep. When you really have a connection to an animal, and I feel like we connect on different levels with different animals. Like I've had cats my whole life, but there's that special one or two or three that I've had that just seem to resonate.
I just unlocked my phone.
Because
I thought if I tap my phone, I'm going to see my dog. And I have 50 different photos on here that change when I unlock it.
Wow.
Oh, really?
And it popped up. Yeah. And I just thought, I'm going to tap it to show, because I bet you I just felt like he was going to be there. This is my dog that I lost not that long ago. It feels like ages ago now. I don't even know. But that was some stuff, right?
I love it.
See, now it's my stepdaughter. So it changes every time you unlock it.
Wow.
See, a real psychic experience live.
Oh, thanks, Megan.
With a psychic. So who would have thought?
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah, even that's
so cool.
Sometimes I just thought, I bet you if I tap it, he's going to be there, and I have to show you, and bang.
He's giving you a little hug, right? Yeah. I'm still around.
Sorry to interrupt your train of thought just then.
No, I love that. That's amazing. But yeah, I do feel like, there's that special animal that you just never forget, and you just it just rips your heart. And I feel like pet grief is even a little bit weird, because there are people that aren't into animals and they think you're being ridiculous. I've had friends that have been so upset they lost their dog or something, and people have just said, oh, just get another one, who cares? And it's like, they're in a sense, those animals are more so part of your family because you're seeing them every day. Like a parent you might not see all the time, or a grandparent or a friend or whatever, but your animal is that unconditional love that's greeting you at the door every day, sleeping in your bed or laying it, you know, in their bed, but you know, on the floor, or whatever. They're so like soul nourishing. And I feel like it's something like a lot of people don't talk about is pet grief. And it's very, very sad when someone loses a pet and they can't like express themselves, because there are people that just don't agree with it, or just are not, you know, empathetic towards it.
I think people with pet grief, I think it's difficult because where I think it's loaded is that you don't want to express too much your grief over your animal publicly, just in case someone has just lost a child, because you're comparing the life of an animal to a child. And so that either happens verbally or it happens non-verbally, but there's that kind of judgment that goes, hey, it's not a kid. Oh, no, it's not a kid. There's a very strong emotional attachment. But there's easy experiments to show that it's, you know, pet grief is very real and very different, because we can watch a TV show where a fictional TV show where someone gets murdered and someone else dies, and even someone loses their kid, and you just watch it and you're like, oh, okay. But then you watch a show and their dog dies and they cry, and everyone's in the room crying, going, oh my God, why did they kill the dog? You know? And it's a fictional, you'll see like people will fall apart just going, don't you dare kill that dog, you know.
Right. It's so true.
Will Smith one with I Am Legend, and the I Am Legend, and he's just left with zombies and his dog dies. It's like everyone's just like, why did they kill the dog? Why did they? Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's so worried. But yet nearly the entire planet was turned to zombies and died, but we're so worried about the dog. So, you know, I think there's definitely something there that people connect with. It's a very strong emotional connection, and there's got to be some kind of, we don't know what it is, but you know, energies don't disappear. You know, our bodysuits do. Souls. This is all on loan. The dogs and cats and other animals, their bodies are on loan as well. They don't get to take it with them, but it's just a loan vehicle while you're here. The energy behind that animal, or even tree or fungus or whatever it is, that energy doesn't go, however big or small it is.
Fungus.
Yeah. Sorry. Interesting the kind of animals that interesting the kind of animals that you love as well. Like one of them being elephants.
Yes.
That's quite a symbolic animal too. Can you share about where does that come from? Are there many elephants in New York?
No, there are not. I know, I don't know what it is. I love they just have such quality, like a majestic quality. They grieve for their loved ones.
With their feet,
they're just highly intelligent.
Their feet over the animals, and they scan the dead bodies with their feet.
They have such great memories.
They're energy healers, or something. I don't know what they're doing.
Grounding them, or
they're
something.
Really like
healing energy or something.
Yeah, they are. I just feel like they're just special. You know, they're just they remember. They're like really feeling animals, and it's sad what's happening to them around the world. It really is. You know, animals are so precious, and just, you know, we need to treat them with the utmost respect and care and compassion. And sometimes we forget that. So it's, you know, it's important to try and bring attention and awareness to certain, you know, the plights of certain animals, you know, which is like, you know, it's funny too, because I recently over the summer, I connected with somebody that wrote a book about the monarch butterfly. And she wrote, it's called Bicycling with Butterflies. It's amazing. If you're into like science and nature and adventure, it's a great book. And so we did an author interview with each other.
Fun.
And after I read the book and I spoke to her, I just was like, I love monarchs. I mean, I loved monarchs anyway, but I never realized their plight was so, like, they're just been put on the endangered list now.
Wow.
And so they're just really special, and their whole migration around North America to Mexico, where they all congregate and they winter there, and they die along the way, but their offspring know the path and exactly where to go. It's so interesting. And it would be such a shame to like lose another animal because of environmental problems and stuff. So that was one of the things that I became really passionate about, was the monarch butterfly. And I'm always trying to draw attention to planting pollinator bushes for the birds and the bees and the butterflies, and not using pesticides that, kill off certain types of insects, because they're important. Without bees and butterflies and other insects, we can't grow food either.
Yeah.
So even if you're looking at it as a science
Selfishly,
experiment, selfishly, just think like you want to have food on your table in 20 years from now. So we have to be really conscious of that issue. So the monarch butterfly is really I'm very passionate about it. So read her book. She's amazing. She's the only woman that ever did that. It's a 10,000 mile bicycle journey around and following the migration of the monarch butterfly.
Oh no, I can't
So
even
much easier to fly. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's wonderful. And you've got that in your blog as well, I noticed as well. So it'd be great for people to go to your website and obviously see some of the pictures about the people you're talking about in the book, to be able to purchase the book as well, and then check out your blog. There's some really great stuff on there that people can learn and understand more.
We'll have all the links in there so people can go click on a direct link to purchase your book or go stalk you.
Yeah. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. So I love to connect with people. And if you've read the book, let me know if you have any feedback. I love to hear that. And leave a review. I love to read what people write. It's so fun. And
reviews really help the book get noticed as well, which is nice. And it seems like a really beautiful Christmas present idea to give to people that are either experiencing someone who isn't well in their life, or if they do have a grandparent or someone like that is getting older, even, not just when someone's crossed over, but before. And it sounds like I'm not saying here's a book because I think someone's going to die in your house. But it's helpful. It sounds like it's a book that will get people's head around all these thoughts and processes and understanding. And because you said you couldn't find a book out there like that, I'm sure there's lots of people just like you thinking the same way that would like to find the perfect book for them. And I'm sure it'll resonate with lots of people.
And actually I had somebody tell me that their friend had lost their sister, and they wanted to send them the book as like a grief, kind of like a grief gift. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that idea. That's another, we're always looking, to say the right thing or send the right thing, or, they get inundated with flowers or whatever. So, books are really a great offer of comfort too.
That's right. And they'll pick it up and read it whenever they're ready and when they need it.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't have to be mine. It could be any book on grief or afterlife or connection or love.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable in your book and your work, and as well as this wonderful conversation that we've been able to have today.
I know, you guys are so fun, and I wish you the best of luck in your podcast. And I really appreciate, you inviting me on, and I'm very grateful. So thank you so much.
We'll have you back for your next couple of books.
Yes.
Yay, that sounds good.
Definitely.
And if you're ever in New York, please look me up.
Will do.
I wish I knew you when I did get to go to New York years ago.
Oh, well, you'll be back. You'll be back.
Surely.
It's in the cards.
It's in the cards.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kristin. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're a breath of fresh air, and we really enjoyed connecting with you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. That's it for another episode. Thanks to our major supporter, Subtle Energy Sciences. Click the link in the show notes to access their full product range of quantum healing technology.
You're blown away by this technology and are so excited to share it with you.
And of course, we really want to hear from you.
Please leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hearnhypnosis.com and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hearnhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.